In an interesting cartoon in the Peanuts series, Charlie Brown wakes up one morning and he looks out of the window. It has snowed all night, but now the sun is shining brightly, so he decides to go out skiing. Donning all the winter gear he can find, he collects his shoes and skis and makes for the door. Unfortunately, he is unable to get through because the clothes he has worn make it impossible to pass. He makes one unsuccessful effort after another. So finally, in desperate frustration, he screams at the top of his lungs, "Will someone please tell me what I have to do to get through the door?" Charlie Brown wants desperately to pass through the door, yet he does not realize why he can't. He is too bundled up. I started with this because this is what Jesus is pointing out in our gospel today. Someone asked him, "Lord, will only a few people be saved?" But Jesus did not directly answer the question with a yes or a no. Instead, he said, "Strive to enter through the narrow gate." Literally speaking, Jesus was referring to narrow gates that were actually common during his time. Most of the ancient cities of the world were surrounded by walls that had large gates in them. For example, Jerusalem had about 12 gates that were large enough for two-way traffic. People moved through these gates to do their business, to shop, or to even visit their friends. These gates, however, were closed at night in case the city came under attack by an invader. But there were also smaller gates through which individual citizens could be allowed into the city by the guards without necessarily exposing the city to danger. These smaller or narrower gates were what Jesus was talking about. These smaller gates were like turnstiles. Only one person at a time could enter through them. And for that one person to enter, one could not be bundled up with so many things. He or she had to let them go to fit in. But theologically, Jesus was referring to himself as the gate, the narrow gate. In John chapter 10, verse 9, he says, "I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved." So Jesus is the gate, the narrow gate through which we need to fit ourselves in. But if we are too bundled up, when there are things that we cannot let go of, we won't fit in and we won't pass through. Many years ago, an editorial in a magazine, War Cry, puts something like this: "A loose wire gives out no musical note, but fasten the ends, the piano, the violin, the harp is born. Free steam drives no machine, but hamper and confine it with piston and turbine, and you have the great world of machinery made possible. The unhampered river drives no dynamos, but dam it up, and we get power sufficient to light a great city." And so our lives must be as disciples. If you are going to walk with Jesus, there are some things that you will need to leave behind. Immorality, vices, drugs, weeds. All of these we need to leave behind. But when we carry ways, when we live lives, and when we embrace ideologies that do not conform to Jesus and to his teachings, we cannot pass through. We cannot be saved. In other words, if we do not become like Jesus in word, in thought, in deed, we cannot be saved. So no wonder Jesus relates this to a mini parable in the gospel, in which people are standing at the door, knocking and saying, "Lord, open the door for us." And the master will say, "I do not know where you are from." And they will reply, "Well, we ate and drank in your company, and you taught in our streets." Note, we ate and drank in your company, and you taught in our streets. Meaning, opportunities had been given them. Opportunities to know Jesus, to learn more about Him, to listen to His teachings. All of these had been given to them, and they themselves recognized that. But they could never say, "Lord, after you taught in our streets, we followed your teachings." Or after being with you in your company, we tried to imitate you and be like you. Or after we found you teaching in our streets, we listened to you and we tried to live our lives in conformity to what you have taught us. No, they could not say that. They could only say, "We ate and drank in your company and you taught in our streets," nothing more. But then the master will say, "Well, I do not know you. I do not know where you are from. Depart from me, you evildoers." If you want to be saved, you gotta walk with Jesus and allow Him to teach you, to guide you, and to form you. I just came back from the Philippines. I attended our religious community retreat there. About 40 priests and brothers attended that retreat, facilitated by the former president of the Bishops' Conference of the Philippines, Soc Villegas. Just a side story, in the middle of the retreat, a 7-point-something magnitude earthquake hit the area, and we were close to the epicenter. We were in a mountainous region called Baguio. Our retreat center was on top of the mountain. Our session hall was at the edge of a cliff. It was a long, strong earthquake. It was scary. It was memorable. But it was memorable not because of the earthquake, but because of how our retreat was opened. The bishop used a text in Genesis, the story of Adam and Eve, and you are very much familiar with this. Remember that after Adam and Eve ate the fruit of the tree in the garden, in the middle of the garden, God walked in and He said, "Where are you?" And then Adam, hidden among the trees, replied, "I heard you in the garden, but I was afraid because I was naked, and so I hid." And then God asked, "Who told you that you were naked? Who told you?" Meaning, aren't you supposed to only listen to me? Whose voice did you listen to? Whom did you allow to teach you and to tell you that you're naked? Whose voice, aside from me, did you listen to? Friends, the same is being asked of us today. Whom do you listen to? Whose voice do you allow to teach you and to tell you about certain things in life? Is it still God? Or someone else? Or something else? In matters such as the value of human life, in things like abortion, or euthanasia, or marriage, or equality, whom do you allow to teach you about these things? Whose voice do you listen to? Who is your teacher? Is it still God or someone else? or something else? Friends, our gospel acclamation is very explicit today. Jesus is the way, the truth, the life. Not one of the way, not one of the truth, not one of the life. No, He is the way, the truth, the life. No one comes to the Father except through Him. This was true yesterday. This is still true today. And this will still be true tomorrow. So you gotta make sure that you listen to Him and to Him alone, so that you can pass through and find salvation. Amen.